Hey, Steven, are you more of a Glinda or an Elphaba?
What?
Harry Potter?
No.
We're talking Wizards on the pregame show. Let's go. Welcome in. It is the PHNX Suns pregame show. I'm Espo. That is Steven. Gerald is at the arena. And Eric, who the hell knows what he's doing tonight? I don't know. I don't care. I gave him the night off when he requested it. But you know who doesn't have the night off? Jusuf Nurkic or Bradley Beal or the Phoenix Suns, as the Washington Wizards are in town. But before we get into the game, I want to tell you that this is brought to you by our friends over at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. You do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details. Steven, before we get into the game, I want to get into something that I've been looking at for a little while over the last couple of weeks. It's the Suns' three-point shooting. It's been kind of odd. In October and November, they were one of the top teams in the league at shooting the three. Since then, they aren't. Do we have the stats here? No, just put them up. They were in the first 2 months of the season shooting 40 three-pointers a game. They're now shooting 34.3. They were making 15 a game. They're now making 12.9 a game. They're shooting the same exact percentage at 37.5%, but their three-point frequency has dropped from 46.6% all the way to 40.5%. And if you look, their rankings have dropped significantly. They were top 10 in attempts, makes, and percentage. They're now in the bottom third in both attempts and makes and frequency as well. Obviously, 11-8 in that first 2 month stretch, 11-13 since then. I asked Tim Legler about it yesterday. He said he likes it, but Steven, do you like it, and have you noticed a difference in the play so far?
Definitely noticed it, and you can feel it in the difference in the flow of the game. It feels like where they once dictated to opponents, and they clearly set their sights out in doing so with the way the roster is constructed. It's not been working in their favor, and they've lost that matchup in terms of the margin for threes made and attempted over the course of a game over the last maybe month and a half, more often than they actually won that. So I think that has a bit of reasoning and why they've struggled at times, and I think they need to get back in alignment with that under this present construct. Now, if the trade that everybody, quite literally the rest of the league, is waiting for happens, I think we see those numbers there would be more aligned with the latter half than it was the former, just because Jimmy's not that high volume three-point shooter. But until then, they need to get back in alignment with that.
Does it seem to make sense, though, to go from the purple rain to the purple drizzle? Like, if you trade for Jimmy, like Butler, like you're saying, it doesn't shift, right? You're back to playing more of that mid-range. It's, it's 2 is less than 3 instead of the reverse. I mean, does that give you pause about the trade as well, just because you're going to be leaning heavier into what we've seen since the start of December?
It doesn't give me pause if we're assuming Jimmy's in the context, because you add Jimmy, you're banking on getting more stops. You get more stops, then that means you can play with more freelance and not be so over-reliant on having to win that three-point margin, because you can bank on the other end of the floor. In their current construct, needless to say, I don't think you could say they'll comfortably depend on getting stops, or that they would feel comfortable doing that.
Well, no, I mean, they don't have the lineup to be able to get stops. Obviously, Nick Richards helps in a lot of ways, and will continue to get more comfortable, so you'll have better rim protection and defensive rotations. And in theory, that's what you hope. So I don't like that they went so far in the other direction after committing to what we thought was going to be more of a new age basketball mindset. And it makes me wonder, like we talked about with legs, was this a Bud thing, or is this just the guys in your lineup tend to be more comfortable with shooting mid range and going through there, and you're running a lot through Katie on the block now where you weren't earlier? I don't know. I don't know why you would so vastly change your system when it got you off to an 8-1 start. You were above 500, and since you've had such struggles.
I don't feel like it's as much of a change in philosophy as it is the ebbs and flows, and them just being a team that's in limbo right now offensively. If you ask me what was the identifying piece of the Suns' offense in terms of their shot profile, it would align a lot more with the mid-range pull-up than it was three-point shooting. That's not what was communicated to us at the beginning of the season from the coaches or the players. So that speaks to a team that I'm not going to say it's an identity crisis because they'll never struggle to put the ball in the basket, but the math within that is not working out the way that they intended for this roster to have it working in their favor so heavily.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see as they get out of this stretch of playing, I hate to say it because they're a 500 team, but lesser opponents, how that pans out against what's going to be one of the tougher schedules for the remainder of the season. Can you get away with shooting fewer threes, or do you have to go back to what you were doing early on to compete against these better teams? Granted, that's obviously without any trades happening. We'll have to reassess at that point. But I feel like, to your point, I think if the way the roster's constituted right now, you got to get back to that. You got to find ways to get Grayson involved. You got to find ways to get Royce O'Neal back shooting at a quality clip. Obviously, he's a streaky shooter. It'll come, he's a guy that could go 1 for 8 and then 6 of 7 the next night. But I feel like you got to get those attempts back in that 35 to 40 range.
I'll say also, though, they haven't been playing in transition as often as they intended to early in the season and that they enjoyed early in the season. It's a lot easier to generate the three-point shots that they enjoy when you're not always doing it in the half court. So playing off of stops more often allows for them to play to their offensive identity that they desire to.
How much do you think, and this will be the last one on this topic, but how much do you think the defense has kind of figured out what they were doing earlier on and now are trying to force them into other looks as well?
Well, that's the issue because the Suns they always wanted to play in transition, but my issue with them and their roster is that they didn't have a defense that is applying pressure or playing actively in the passing lanes or even blocking shots at the rim often enough to afford yourself the opportunity to get those shots in transition. On the rarest occasion do we see the Suns get out on a break that's not following just a defensive rebound. Now, defensive rebounds still lead to transition, but that lends itself to the opponents getting back in transition more often than it is you're going against a defense that's completely unset. So they don't play a chaos-inducing style of defense yet, and because of that, I feel like that's also why we're seeing the inconsistencies with the three-point volume.
Yeah, they're creating their own chaos with the turnovers.
Correct.
On the other
end.
And
the missed rotations, which is why they can't play in transition often.
Exactly. Well, we sent out our friend Gerald Bourget to shoot around this morning, and there was some talk on multiple fronts. But the first one I want to get into is Book talked about Nick Richards, their new starting center, how he's played before he comes into his first home game tonight.
Great, doing everything that we've asked for him and, learning quick. It's obviously going to be a little adjustment. I think the guard-big relationship is one of the most important relationships out there. So, he's telling me the things that he sees. I'm telling him things that I see. And, it's a relationship.
To your point about that, you've gone through that type of initiation process, I guess, or chemistry building process with a lot of different bigs. What are some of the things that you kind of hone in on when you're going through that again?
I'd say just flow, timing, screening angles are probably the most important things. And, there's no one right answer. That's the thing about it. So, it's just building the chemistry.
Book talked about building chemistry with Nick Richards, flow, timing, screening angles. I feel like the bulk of the value that he's going to bring to this team in this current construct is on the other end of the floor, and that's defensively. Now, that's still a relationship with the guards and perimeter defenders, but where the Suns have been hurt most is they just can't protect the rim consistently outside of Kevin Durant, and their bigs aren't defending in the ways that they need to for them to sustain on that end of the floor. Now, some of that also comes from the guards not doing their job in terms of containing the ball on the perimeter consistently enough to where they're not just having a drive here and a drive there without any type of resistance coming right at the centers. So it's definitely hand in hand. I think him getting the feel, Nick Richards getting the feel for which guards can kind of stick to their man better versus who is going to get blown by, and being able to anticipate that. And then the rest of the defense rotating around that is important, just as important as it is going to be for them to establish pick and roll chemistry.
Yeah, on the offense, what have you seen in that Nick and roll with the guards and Nick here so far? Because obviously that's a timing thing. That's starting to understand where a guy likes to be. We talked about we haven't seen a lot of lobs yet because it takes time to find that rhythm. What have you seen so far that you like and that you think maybe needs to be worked on a little bit?
Yeah, what I like is Nick Richards hits people. And he doesn't have a problem whether he picks up a foul for it, which he has to work on that part. But I just like the physicality component. It's something that in a conducive way to winning the Suns haven't had this season. He's bringing that every time he gets a chance to make contact with somebody, especially somebody smaller. I call him a furniture mover because he quite literally discards of players, whether he's going for offensive rebounds, defensive rebounds, or setting screens. And in addition to that, which I think is something we'll see him have opportunity with tonight against the Wizards, with the attention that the Suns guard group gets, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and even Kevin Durant, when he's handling it, they get two to the ball, and that short roll is something that's important for the Suns to connect their offense. Now, he's not as great as Nurkic is or Plumlee is or even Oso is at making the quick decisions, but he's shown a willingness to accept the attention that they're garnering and then play off of that. It hasn't always led to made baskets, which is another reason why the three-point volume hasn't worked out the way that they desired for it to, but he's seeing the passes to make, and he's attempting to grow in that, and I think that's only going to help him as he plays more minutes with this team.
Yeah, Nick ain't soft in those picks.
Not even a little bit.
He hits people hard, and that is something that you like to see out there, and not in a way to try to start anything. He's just making his presence known.
He's creating an advantage.
Yeah, and I want to see more of that. I hope the connection starts to get there, like we were talking about. But I've really enjoyed what I've seen from him so far, and I wonder how he's going to feed off that home crowd. This is the first time that group gets to cheer for him in person. There was something else yesterday that I attempted to do and failed miserably, a voice of one Forrest Gump, but Devin Booker did pretty good, and he talked about doing that in those Nike videos today.
Can we add voice acting to your resume now?
It turned out good, huh? It was funny.
Did they get you a booth for that?
Yeah, it was good. It was a great reaction too, so everything turned out well. Getting around the city yesterday, doing some drops too, so I think that was the first one actually in the Phoenix area. And there was people running all over for him, so something I plan to continue to do in the future.
How does that make you feel when you get to do that for Phoenix fans and see Suns fans' reaction here in the Valley?
I mean, first things first, nothing's better than free shoes. I know that as a kid growing up. And it just makes everybody feel involved. I've seen people reaching out to me that were late to the shoes, that still had a family experience of trying to hunt them down and move around the city and get outside a little bit.
Oh, I thought it was hilarious. And then all the pictures and videos was funny too. I still ain't got my pair, but I'm waiting for that.
What's the holdup on that?
I don't know. You gotta ask him. I'm just waiting for all the colors. I still ain't got them.
I guess you just gotta go find the drop-offs that he makes around town.
I ain't got time for that. I ain't got time to be going around the town. I want to just have them in my locker.
Have you ever been to Monument Valley where that iconic moment is, running up that Highway 163?
Nah, I ain't been there. I ain't been.
When you heard that voice, did you really think that was him? I mean, did it sound like him, or did it sound like something AI?
I mean, I gotta go back and watch it to really say, but I think so. I don't know.
He's got a shot at being a voiceover actor.
For me? Or
no, book.
Nah, he got some work to do. He got some work to do.
Okay, he did pretty good for for that. I thought, especially when you got to do impersonation too. But I like that Book had a little fun with that. But I gotta know, is there beef between him and Royce? How does Royce not have his shoes? How do you not give every colorway to your teammates with the exception of Nurk?
Well, because Nurk already had his pair he's been wearing. So.
Yeah, and Book went, no more. I can't have that happening in my shoes. He's like, no.
I hear you. That's a genuinely a good question, and I'm curious what Devin Booker would say about that. Only person that wouldn't wear him is obviously Kevin Durant for the clear reason because he has his own.
If I were Book, the next time Royce comes into that locker room, his whole locker is boxed in with just every one of my shoes
have his
in the
locker
wrong
like,
size just to give him a hard time.
Never mind, we went the wrong way with that. I was gonna say have his locker look like PJ Tucker's used to with the Kobe's.
PJ had a second locker
For sure.
Like he had his actual locker and they gave him the one next to him because he had so many shoes. They literally were like, you just put them all in there.
I've never seen a player change shoes as often as PJ Tucker did when he was playing consistently.
PJ had all those shoes and then a Ted. You remember the movie Ted, the teddy bear? A teddy bear, a Ted teddy bear that talked in his locker. Those were
crazy.
What he had in that secondary
person
locker.
I would expect to have a teddy bear of any.
Yeah, but it was a cursing teddy bear that said all sorts of dirty things.
That makes sense.
I mean, it made a little sense. So obviously Royce and Book having a little fun. But let's take a look at the injury report. This is fun, more than what it has been. Bradley Beal available. That depending on how you feel. And then Jalen Bridges and Ty Washington out with their injury or out with the two-way contracts. They're with the Valley Suns.
They've been playing some ball.
Yeah. Malcolm Brogdon out with right plantar fasciitis. Marvin Bagley III doesn't get to play in his hometown because of a right knee sprain, and Sadiq Bey out because of that left ACL surgery. So clean slate for the Suns. Jusuf Nurkic isn't there with the world's longest flu anymore. Bradley Beal ran out of PTO, so he's playing tonight as well. How do you think this is going to play out? Because rotations have been difficult for Coach Bud. You now have Nurk, who was your starting center, and now finds himself potentially fourth on the depth chart.
Yeah. I say this with a grain of salt, but because of the reserve matchup with Jonas Valanciunas, and for every bit that I said that Nick Richards is a furniture mover, apply that, times 10 multiply for JV. I don't know if Mason is, well, I know because we saw it when they played the Wizards a week ago. He's not going to be good enough to stick with JV. Neither is Oso for obvious reasons.
Yeah, because he weighs like a third of what Jonas weighs. Yeah.
Correct. So just by nature of the way that the basketball guys want to work things out, Mike Budenholzer's hand is likely going to be forced in playing Nurkic in those reserve minutes, even if it is for a total of 12 minutes over the course of the game, which is it's insane. But I'm just saying they don't have another reserve.
How's the crowd going to react?
Yes, that's going to be past the crowd. How's the rest of the team going to react?
I mean,
Are those minutes going to be so negative that it sways whatever work that the starters did?
Well, I would hope that whatever was going on chemistry wise, that they had a meeting yesterday and said either put it aside or don't be around the team.
Well, I mean, you could talk like lip service is cute and everything with that, but when it comes down to a team push you in conflict and you have to trust that somebody's going to be there to do something on either end of the floor to keep you in a positive way, and they're not able to execute to that level, and then it compounds over the course of 7 to 10 minutes, that's when you're really going to tell when that adversity and that nature hits. Because, I can say we cool all the time, but once we get put in the pinch, if I got to keep looking over my shoulder and now I'm not doing my job because you're not doing yours, then the whole team is suffering at that point.
Well, now I'm all worried that you think I'm not doing my job around here. How dare you, Steven? No, I think you're right. And the first time that Nurk gets a foul called on him and he does the, me, what, and argues for 3 minutes, I think that might not be very well received by his teammates. So it's going to be interesting to watch that. Obviously, Bradley Beal will come off the bench. It'll be interesting to see how he reintegrates himself into the offense and how he plays amidst all the insanity that's going on right now. Can't be easy to hear people talking about where you might live in the next 2 weeks with no. I mean, I guess he has control over it more than any other player, but still can't be the easiest thing to hear. So we'll see how he reacts today. Let's take a look at what we thought will happen tonight with the points in this game. I have the Suns winning by 15 because I said, you know what? Why not? Let's feel confident against one of the bottom feeders of the NBA. Steven, what did you have?
I had the Suns winning by 8, a more modest pick because I feel like the reserve center matchup is something that could sway this game a little bit.
Yeah, I could see that. Our friend White Noise, Eric Ruby, has the Suns by 13. And the reporter extraordinaire who, for some reason, doesn't have odds on him breaking the Jimmy Butler trade. He has the Suns by 5. Gerald, you're number 1 in my books, all right? Let's take a look at what our friends over at Bet365 think is going to happen in tonight's game. Speaking of odds, you can get the Suns at a minus 1,000 money line. I looked at it. I considered it. I'm not gonna lie.
For sure.
I didn't take
all
it.
them O's over there, man. Listen.
And then the spread is minus 14 for the Suns. This is a reminder too. When you bet with Bet365, if you take a team to win, even if that money line is minus 1,000, if they go up by 20 at any point, you're gonna win that bet and the whole 10 cents that would come along with that if you're playing in our world. So you could do that. A money line for the Wizards at plus 650. They're plus 14 points tonight. Do you think that spreads about where it should be, or do you think it should be closer to where you're picking tonight?
It's where it should be, but the Suns have to play to that. That's very much what they should be doing, and that should be their floor for this game. Get out here and handle your business. You got a 3-game homestand after that 5-game road trip. It's an opportunity to start turning the tides. They have to build momentum for the teams that are ahead of them in the schedule going into next week. And if they don't lead into it the right way, that stretch is going to be one that potentially defines the season for them in terms of if they can leap out of the play-in realm or if they're stuck there for the duration of however long their season goes.
Makes sense. Lenny 18K, Amelia, Exodus 5. Why are there so many damn numbers in these names tonight? Baxter Bees, hello, Nacho, everybody that's in here, real and fake Nacho. Thank you for being here. Hit that like button. We will set our like goal in post game, and you're going to want to be there for it because if we hit it, Noah has something very special for you in the post game. We will do that later. But what I do want to take a look at is our pregame picks, who are brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use the promo code PHNX365 when you sign up and find out why, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Disclaimer: must be 21 and over, physically located in AZ. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. Text NEXT STEP to 53342 or visit problemgambling.az.gov. Let's take a look at the picks. We'll start with mine tonight because we won't save the best for last. Devin Booker, 30-plus points. Grayson Allen, 2 or more 3-pointers made. Nick Richards, 10 or more rebounds. This is a boosted pick because it is the PHNX same-game parlay of the night. It is plus 800. It was originally plus 600. I could not resist that sweet, sweet boost and the pick that our own Shane Diefenbach, former producer, put together for us for Bet365. Let's take a look at Eric's. I'll let you go last, Steven. So we've got Eric's, because why wouldn't he make it complicated for us to tell if he won? Nick Richards, 10-plus points. Tyus Jones, 5.5. Plus 5.5 assists. Nick Richards, 9.5 plus rebounds. Kevin Durant, plus 2.5 3-pointers made. Ryan Dunn, plus 15.5 PRA. Devin Booker, plus 38.5 PRA at a plus 3,300. So we got that. And then let's take a look at Steven's bet.
I kept it simple, even more simple than usual today. 38.5 PRA for Devin Booker. He had a huge game against the Wizards last time out. I feel like they don't have an answer for him, and the way
Agreed.
that they've been flowing on offense through him, I think there's great opportunity to establish things in this one. Grayson Allen has been in a good way in terms of his three-point shooting. We just got done speaking to them needing to get the uptick back up to 40 or more.
Yeah.
He's a huge driving force in that. If they move the ball, he gets 6+ attempts. He's knocking down at least 2 of those. And then the other one, JV, we just got done talking about how he's going to have an impact on this game. I don't think the Suns have a reserve answer for him. You can't play Nick Richards 48 minutes. So because of that,
you could.
you could technically, but I feel like in those off minutes where Nick Richards is resting, JV's going to have his way in the paint. And they like to play through him. I think the A part in that assist is underrated. He sees the floor well, and he can make most passes out of the post.
Yeah. Apparently, I said Devin Brooker, so I don't think he'll have 30. Shout out to Groundhog Mama, who gets it. She's rooting for me to win my bet because she took the same one. That's right. Let's
There you
get
go.
this together tonight. DJ says Kevin Durant to drop 27. Would not shock me at all.
Maybe a
Meatloaf
little bit.
reminds us Book is chasing that Suns all-time scoring record. I think he's 160-something away, so we're a handful of games away from him accomplishing that. That is going to be a lot of fun to watch. So, Steven, any final thoughts on the Suns versus Wizards before we go watch the game?
Yeah, Suns need to come out and set a tone. Win the first quarter, win it hopefully in a demonstrative way, set a tone for the rest of the game. With the Wizards on their end, they like to press. Their defense is not good. But when you press teams, you take away the time that they have to create multiple advantages on offense. So seeing the Suns be efficient, getting the ball into their half-court sets, and then working through their options and moving the ball, allowing for them to get that three-point uptick up.
Limit turnovers early.
Mm-hmm.
Let Devin Booker score early. That is what I think is going to be the recipe for success. And then let Kevin Durant go the rest of the time, which we know usually works. Amelia, shout out to you. Glad to have you back. And thank you for the gifts that you dropped off at the studios. I didn't get a chance to say that. Hit that like button on the way out, and you can come back right here at postgame. We will be here, win, lose, and if they draw, we might not be because that probably means something horribly wrong has happened. He is Steven. I'm Espo, and we'll talk to you then. Ahoy, hoy.
We all silly like the mayor.